at the end of the day, tomorrow I could walk out there, get hit by a car. I've seen my dad have multiple heart attacks, something like that internal, I could take you out. We don't know how long we're going to be on this planet. I don't know if I'm going to be here tomorrow. I don't know if I'm going to be here next month. What's stopping me from trying everything I can to get to that level?
Welcome back to another episode of The Burn. I am Ben Newman, and you know how we do this every single week. We're bringing you a story of an athlete, an entertainer, a celebrity, an entrepreneur, somebody who is recognized in their life that why and purpose is significant, but it's not enough. It's about understanding that underlying burn that ignites your why and purpose that then causes you to be disciplined in your daily action. And not only do we have a dear friend of mine with us today, who I'm going to really set the table for this introduction, but it's great to be in person. You guys have started to get the feel. We're getting back in person again. Those Zoom screens are great. They were efficient, but it is incredible to be back in person live for these episodes of The Burn. Now, today's episode is very special for me for this reason. Many times you have heard me say, I get sick and tired of hearing people talk about how great they want to be. And they say they're going to be great. And they tell us everything that they want to do. And then we go and have a conversation with their action. And we find out they really didn't want it all that bad. And that's part of why we have The Burn. So if you're one of those individuals who struggled with the consistency, you've been seduced by success over time, that we're going to drive continual peak performance for you by helping you uncover your burn. So to set the table for our interview with Ashwin Mohan, here's what I want to share with you. We were at a boot camp. How many years ago?
Man.
7? First one?
First one was 7 years ago. Yeah.
So 7 years ago, first boot camp. And he's been to boot camps in the Dominican. He's been to boot camps in Las Vegas. We met through our relationship through a Fortune 100 financial firm. And I'll never forget this. We're in one of our acts, so in the morning we have business sessions, then we go have some fun in the afternoons. And so we're swimming in the pool, and another dear friend of ours, Claudio Gambin, who's been on The Burn, and you've heard us talk so much about. Claudio is swimming around, and we're having this conversation, and Ashwin, who's brand new in the business, and it's one of those, he's thinking big, he's saying all these great things he's going to do. I'm sure you'll never forget this.
Never will.
And he's like, man, I want to do the things that Claudio is doing. And I want to get to the level that Claudio's at. And I just want to tell you why I am so excited and why I'm so proud of you. And I know that you will not be seduced by success and your best is in front of you, is you've already exceeded what you told me you were going to do in that pool.
I appreciate it, man.
And that's the uniqueness of the relationship, because we've done one-on-one coaching together, and there have been so many things, and then you build a great friendships, and here we are in our home. And I'm proud of you, because there's so many people who they wait to be successful.
Absolutely.
I mean, you just turned 28 years old. For the company that you represent, it's one of the fastest starts in the history of the company. And it's not some new company that started yesterday. It's a 150 plus year company. One of the fastest starts ever. So welcome to The Burn officially.
Thank you.
This is long overdue.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
So
great.
Here's where I want to start. So when we think about everything that you've done, and we think about the pool, and we think about The Burn, what was it for you at a young age where you said, I don't have to wait until my 30s, I don't have to wait until my 40s? What was it for you? What was the burn that caused you to say, I'm going to attack?
Yeah. The biggest thing I found, take us back real quick to that pool, and let me share a little bit more. When I was sitting at these boot camps, when we were in the Dominican Republic, when we were in Vegas, in the pool there, chatting with guys like Claudio and some of the other advisors, you start to see what's actually possible. And I think planting the seed and really kind of understanding, okay, this is what other guys are doing in my own industry and where I could take this thing. Now I could visually see it and live a little bit vicariously through them. And seeing Claudio and listen to his success story, how he's building his practice, his companies and everything, I was standing there and honestly, I was in shock. I was 22, 23 years old at the time. And I was like, I didn't even know.
Probably throwing boot camp on a credit card.
Exactly, yeah. Trying to manage, make it there. Flew down to the Dominican. Had no idea if my money was even going to work. I remember landing in the Dominican, the debit card didn't work, and I forgot to call the company and tell them, hey, I'm out of the country. But you're sitting next to guys that have achieved that you want to achieve, guys and gals, and you're hearing their stories, you're hearing their struggles, their adversity, and everything, and you go, what is making me different than them? It's not really anything. We're the same person. We're good-hearted people. We love to take care of our community, be with our loved ones. Their mindset is just over here. I'm right here. I want to grow my mindset and get to that. And seeing, guys like you and what you're building, what Claudio's done, and seeing what you guys are evolving to over time and continuously growing and seeing what, everything's going on as far as business and family, it gets me excited. So I think a couple years back when we were sitting there in Vegas, the light bulb kind of went off in my head and it was, okay, this is actually possible. And I'm going to deal with some adversity going through it because I know it's not going to be an easy path, but the fruit on the other end is going to be really delicious and it's going to be great. I need to power through that because I know I'm capable of it. Let's get after it and let's go.
So you reached a point that it's what you see, it's what you believe, it starts to change. You make the choice to put yourself in that environment, knowing the work that I had done, knowing I was an advisor. So you knew, like, if I come to that environment, I'm going to grow.
Yeah.
And so you were doing good, and you were doing really good.
Yeah.
And then there was a mind shift for you. And I just, no free shout outs, but a shout out to our guy, Kyle Burton, another one of our friends. And Kyle, just a beautiful question that, we were spending time earlier together today with Kyle, and he was able to say, I think for Ashwin, it comes down to the mind shift. What was the mind shift, Kyle said, that moved you from being good to really then believing great? So you put yourself in the environment, you were doing good, then it was really good. What was the mind shift that really put you to where you are today? Because I know you're a humble guy, but so people can kind of paint the picture. I mean, as a financial advisor, the level in which you're impacting others is probably in the top 0.01% of advisors in the world at 28 years old. Yeah. So what was the mind shift that went from really good to really impacting people at the level you are now?
Yeah. So to give some context, when I first started my company and getting it kind of off the ground, we were a little slow. When I was first getting, my feet into the financial advising world, we were very slow. And, you hear some of these top financial advisors that are absolutely killing it, big books, big teams and everything. And I've always had the vision of wanting to do that, but I didn't know how to get there. And it first starts off with mindset and thinking big. And for the first really 4 years of financial services, for me, it was just trying to keep my head above water and just trying to make it through. I was trying to bring on new clients. I was trying to help people out, just trying to get my name out there. And then it was right during the pandemic. And I said, okay, how can I help more people at a larger scale and help them achieve their goals, which is also going to, in result by byproduct, help me achieve my goals. And I said, okay, we could fine tune the business. So I always chat with advisors when they ask me, when we're on calls or coaching, and I go, there's really two things when it comes down to working in our industry and even any industry, and it's working hard and working smart. And it's great to work hard. You could be a diligent worker, you could get after it, you could be extremely disciplined, but at the same time, you need to be smart when you're working. And I found, okay, I have the working hard mindset. I'm ready to get up every morning, get after it with my day and do everything. But if I'm not intentional with my time and what I'm doing in there, then I'm not really being that productive. And what I found is, okay, how do I fine tune my business to really speed things up, to really get in front of more people and get out there? What does my mindset have to shift to? So, we chat about Prize Fighter Day. During the pandemic, I said, hey, I want to get this so dialed in. I don't want to let things out of my control impact what I can and can't do. So, did 75 hard during the pandemic. That got my mindset right. And then, honestly, and I'll give a shout out to, the lady back at home, but she also keeps me very humbled and always is pushing me to help me achieve my goals. So,
Kiana's been good for you.
Oh, she's been great. She's been great. She always tells me, she goes, when we first met, you were just kind of reaching, kind of the uphill steam of your business, and now you've taken it to a new level. And she always loves to say, I think it was because we started dating that you're at where you're at. And, I think she's absolutely right. But when she watches this video, she's going to give me a bunch of crap.
The way I hear you talk about her, your life, the
Mm-hmm.
things that you want to do together, right? So you find this passion in the business, you start working hard, you're living in the details, you're attacking prize fighter days, but there is something amazing about having the support because there is a
Absolutely.
different energy about you now and your excitement for what you
Mm-hmm.
can now have in the future that I feel from you because we've known each other a long
Oh,
time and
absolutely.
lots of one-on-one coaching calls.
Absolutely.
And so how important has that support and energy been? Let's not overlook or not spend time here because a lot of people don't spend enough time on paying attention to how important that support is.
Yeah. When we started dating, we we actually did it a bit untraditional. We did long distance to start. I was in Utah, she was in Eastern Washington, and she would fly down when she could. I would fly up there. And we would chat all the time, chat on the phone, do FaceTime, everything that we possibly could. She didn't really see kind of the business and what I was doing until when I moved up to Eastern Washington, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho area, and she would be coming over all the time. She'd be seeing my work hours. And at first I had to explain to her, my business isn't 9 to 5. It's really 7 to 7, sometimes 7 to 8. So for instance, earlier this week, I had a 7:30 meeting. I hardly ever take a 7:30 meeting, but hey, the client said, hey, that's the only time I can meet. I got young kids at home and I get it. You got other stuff. You got to take care of the kids, childcare and whatnot. So let's do this 7:30 meeting. And communicating that to her back at home and saying, hey, I don't know if I'm going to make dinner tonight, or hey, we might have to go out, or hey, I might just catch you right before you go to bed, or whatever it might be. Having that support in your corner, oh my God, it's tremendous. If you don't have somebody there that could say, hey, I totally support you. Let's do it. Let's get after it. I mean, it makes it so hard on your mindset. So she's made that tremendously easier. Our communication has gotten better as well. She's getting ready to start her own business now. So we've been a little bit nervous together as a couple on how that's going to work. We're both starting businesses, scaling businesses at the same time, and we're both running around with our heads cut off, I like to call it. So trying to communicate that way is extremely important.
So that's been a big piece of your burn that I've seen evolve. So you see the success, you see the relationship. Let's go to the deep emotional part of your burn. I know this might be tough for you, but I think we need to go here for people to understand the importance of fighting through challenge, adversity, and honoring people. I know your mom and dad mean the world to you.
Absolutely.
And lots of sacrifice that they've made for you to have opportunity that really has helped you want to work harder, which I want you to touch on. But I also remember when you lost your dear friend Bakari. And I remember how hard that was. And I remember the emotion of it. I remember conversations. I remember ways you've decided back then and how you still honor him. Tell us a little bit about more of the emotional side of how important relationships are to you and honoring people, especially when their lives are taken far too soon.
One thing I'll say, Ben, is, when you're at a young age, it is very hard to find people that have a similar mindset to yourself. And when you find that person, the relationship, what you could chat about with them, growing businesses, taking over the world, whatever it might be, doing that in your 20s while you're dealing with adversity. Him and I, Bakari, when we first met, we met in college at the University of Arizona, and those were the kind of things that we talked about. And he was wanting to get into the apparel business and start up a clothing line, and I was just getting started in financial services. And when I got that call, it didn't really sink in for me that I just lost my best friend. I lost the guy that I was texting every day, calling every day, and whatever. And it happened in Greece. He got in an altercation inside of a bar that led outside, and he was beaten to death by a handful of individuals. And it was about a couple months later. I went to the funeral. I came back from the funeral, and I feel like, and everybody's different. Everybody grieves differently. Everybody takes on death differently. When I was in that moment, I said, hey, I got really two options here. I could play the victim mentality and be like, I lost my best friend, I can't do this. My life's been shattered, like whatever it is. Or I could be like, hey, I have an opportunity to kind of carry on his legacy. And maybe it might not be, 15, 20 years from now, I put his name up on a statue or a building or whatever it is, we do donate money to charity on behalf of Bakari Henderson. But, when I take a look at his legacy, it's the relationship that we had and the things he taught me that's going to carry that legacy. And so, when I came out of, when I came after the funeral, I was dealing with that. It was pretty rough. I was just getting started in financial services. I was going to school at night, lost my best friend. And, January of 2018 comes around, and I've never shared that. I don't even think I've shared this with you. The video of a surveillance camera came out of what happened inside the bar and then what happened outside the bar. And I'll never forget, my dad actually texted me, and he asked me, he was like, have you seen the video, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, I'm not going to watch it. My mom called me and she was like, you shouldn't watch the video. It's pretty bad. I remember going to bed that night. I was living in the house, had a bunch of roommates. I went to bed that night and I couldn't sleep. And it was about 10 p.m. And I said, you know what? I need to get out of the house. I just need to go be myself. I got to watch this video. So I go to the office. My roommates all thought I was crazy because I told them I had work to do. So school and work, I went to the office. I sat in my cubicle and I watched that video. And I actually think in the time span that night, I watched the video probably 1,000+ times. And the video's just burned in my head. And, psychologically, that's probably not a great thing for me. But watching that video made me realize that life is so goddamn short. So short. And we talk about your burn, you have guys on here talk about seduction, success, and whatever. I'm like, at the end of the day, tomorrow I could walk out there, get hit by a car. I've seen my dad have multiple heart attacks, something like that internally could take you out. We don't know how long we're going to be on this planet. And I didn't know I thought my best friend was going to be here until, 40s, 50s. We were going to be drinking OJ and vodka on the beach one day, catching up with our wives and whatever it might be. But that's just not life. And when that happened, I remind myself every day, I wear his bracelet on my wrist every day. My burn deep down is going, okay, these guys out there are creating these businesses. They're doing all these different things. I don't know if I'm going to be here tomorrow. I don't know if I'm going to be here next month. What's stopping me from trying everything I can to get to that level? Because if I don't try and I just go kind of complacently through life, I don't want to get to that point where when I pass away and the question, or if I'm on my hospital deathbed and the questions are, what if? What if I did this? What if I'm, spent more time working? What if I spent more time with Kiana at home? Or we went on that trip or spent more time with her family? Like, you never know. Now, the reason why I take a look at building a business, becoming financially successful is my biggest thing. We were talking about this in the car, is in order to do those things, in order to speed up and achieve these goals at a faster rate, you have to find a way to buy your time. And it's almost impossible to buy your time. We talked about this with travel, commercial versus flying private. It's faster to fly private, so you be with your family versus, flying commercial, delayed flights, whatever it might be. When you think about those things, it happens in your business as well. You got to find things throughout your day that can speed up your time, whether it's delegating it to staff or whatever it might be. So I know I could get home. For me, deep down, my next chapter, Kiana and I will eventually get married here. And the next chapter after that is starting a family. And her and I, and she knows this, and I go, 7 years from now, we'll likely have a couple kids. I want to be the dad that's at all the sports games. I want to pick them up and take them to school. I want to do all these different things. In order to do those things and still live the same lifestyle that we live, me coaching advisors, building the business, managing staff, putting out fires, whatever it is, I got to get so fine-tuned with my time. And I think understanding that at a young age and the combination of losing Bakari and knowing that life is short has really kind of brought it to a reality of, shit, I got to get after it. Because I feel like, the sand's coming through and I'm almost out.
It's for you to understand life with that perspective is so deep. I've always thought of you as well mature beyond your years. Even when we met at Fast Track for the first time at a speaking engagement, which kind of started all of this. I've always thought of you as beyond your years, but hearing you just talk about Bakari in that way and how much you appreciate each day, it's kind of the pain I had to go through with my mom to appreciate every day. It's what I know so many individuals watching every week, they go through pain, and you'd never wish your pain on somebody else, but pain often provides perspective. And it's amazing seeing how you've grown. I just, like I mentioned, I'm very proud of you. I think when I dropped off Isaac, for those of you that have heard me tell my mother's story, my mom passed away 11 days before my 8th birthday. I remember dropping off Isaac at school when he was 11 days before his 8th birthday. And so it was like, here I was at the moment, like this was it. Like my mom never made it past this day. And so there are these things that like you remember, right? So you watch that 1,000 times to be able to say, I will never forget, because this is the moment for me. And I've always looked at one day at a time, but I never wanted that day to end faster so I could get to the next day. But then it was like that day I'll never forget. Like it was a deeper rooted, like I'll never forget one day at a time. And so I think for everybody, I think what you're encouraging them to do and what I'm encouraging you to do in sharing that is to really embrace that one day at a time, because then your life changes.
Oh, absolutely.
And everybody thinks they have so much time. Like Bakari had no idea that was it, And to your point, we don't know how much time we have. So I think that level of maturity, I think it's why you give and love so much to Kiana. I think it's why I see you traveling and doing things that kids at 28 years old would be scared to do, but you say, hey, we got one life to live, so I'm going to work hard enough to do the things I want to do and provide experiences to this woman that I love, and she's growing a business to be able to do it together. So I'm very, very proud of you. And I think a lot of times in my work, it's making me a little emotional. A lot of times in my work, I think people think that it's money driven. Like, dude, this is why I do what I do. And I know why you do what you do for relationships and experiences and to go have those kids. And we had some conversations earlier that we're not going to get into the context of it, but you said a couple things as it came up, and it was just your values, which I'd like to finish here. But some of the comments that you made, it was like, man, like, okay, what we're talking about, some people at 28 would be like, oh no, that dude's cool, man, what he's doing. And you were like, my respect ends there for that type of behavior.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the way that I was. Like, you just don't do those things. And y'all can figure out what I want.
Yeah.
And so where do the values like that come from? Is that part of this perspective from Bakari? Because it's, people used to tell me I was an old soul. I think the same of you. Even back to that Fast Track when we first met, like the way you approached me, I'm like, this dude's like 35, but like you're like a 20-year-old kid, So where do those values come from? Why is that so important to you? Because like it was like a clear line, like that ended for me. Like the respect was gone.
Yeah. When I was young, I love my parents to death. My parents are some of my best teachers growing up. They taught me, work ethic and give it your all every day. Work ethic in the sense that, some parents that want their kids to get in sports, give it their all and everything. I don't know what it is. We just aren't athletic. I'm super unathletic. So, we would sit down there Sunday morning, and academics were big in our family. And my dad would say, hey, you got a chapter of math problems? Go ahead, get after it. Let me know if you need help. I'll walk you through it. But you got to get this done before you could go do your other things. We were chatting about Zach Levine and his workout schedule. Yeah. Same concept. So, when you take a look at that instilled work ethic, because there would be numerous times I'd want to get away from that table. And my dad would say, hey, no, you're doing it. And sometimes I sat at that table all day Sunday just to finish 10, 15 pages of math problems. So getting that work ethic taught from by my parents really kind of helped shape that value. And then, the family culture, my parents, they instilled in both my brother and I that you take care of your family And, family comes first. You take care of them. You want to make sure that you're there for them and go to all these different things. And so, family was a big one, work ethic. And then at the end of the day, as you mature and as you get older, I think your tolerance for bullshit just kind of, goes out, and you kind of just see and you go, okay, you know, what are these people actually doing, and does it actually make sense? Can I relate to that? If not, I don't want to be associated with that. And coming back to the value of time, if I only have X amount of days or X amount of hours left on this planet without knowing the end, why would I be sitting here having that conversation with somebody that doesn't share the same values and doesn't want to achieve the same things? And everybody has a different mindset. And I'm not saying that as, oh, I'm not going to ignore, or I'm going to ignore people that don't share my values. Absolutely not. It's people who don't align or have the same mindset of taking care of their family, of doing what's in the best interest of themselves, of improving themselves. And that's always been a challenge for me, is how to relate to somebody that wants to live their life this way when I want to live my life this way. And, my parents have done a great job. Kiana does a phenomenal job putting up with all my bullshit. Because, when you're running around with your head cut off, we're high maintenance individuals. I think our spouses get the trophy for putting up with all of our stuff. But so you get those values and you get everything else that comes with it.
Well, I can't thank you enough for coming on the burn. I think just sitting here having the conversation, from when you were just a college intern when we met to now having Moen Financial, and now people are turning to you to be a coach. People are looking to you for advice. You're the speaker going into events now. When we go back, Vegas boot camp this year, we're doing it bigger than ever.
I'm excited.
There's going to be people in the pool this year looking at you the way you looked at Claudio. And the challenge I have for you, which you can take it, is continue to be that example for others. Because when
Absolutely.
it flips, a lot of people stop. But I think for guys like you, it provides the example. When it flips, you keep going that much further, and you have that in you. That you're just scratching the surface. And so thank you so much for coming on the
Absolutely,
burn.
brother.
I love you, brother.
Thank you. Love you too.
Proud of you.
Yeah.
And if I could just share a challenge for all of you, I think one of the amazing things about Ashwin's Story, it provides perspective of, we go through pain, which helps us find some great strength. But also Ashwin's Story, for somebody young in your business endeavor, it's a great example. Don't wait. You don't have to wait to be successful. You can be successful now by attacking, living in those details, taking your time back, scrutinizing the decisions that you made. But also for those individuals who have achieved success, and I'm putting them on the spot here by challenging him because I know he can handle it, you don't stop either. Don't be seduced by success. Recognize that where you are, it's one chapter that's helped you realize there's so much more in front of you. Don't stop. Don't be seduced by success. Because just like Ashwin was one of those individuals who we pay attention to his action, that's why we see the story now. It wasn't all talk in that pool, it was action. I know that his action will continue the same way moving forward. And so let's commit to each other to stay connected on these burn episodes. Find what you need. Remember the importance of the burn, but remember to attack every single day. It's that never finished, own it mentality that will be the difference. So thank you again for coming on the burn. Brother. And make sure that you share this episode with somebody who needs to hear this. We're going to leave plenty of links for you to be able to stay connected with Ashwin. For some of you that are advisors that want to tap into his mindset, we're going to give you the opportunity to connect. Make sure that you connect, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the burn next week.